Welcome to IFES' Dialogues on Democracy. I'm Editorial and Communications Manager Adam Gallagher, and today I'll be speaking with Vice President of Programs Michael Svetlik about the busy slate of elections in Latin America in the year ahead. In his role at IFES, Michael provides policy and programming guidance to IFES' international operations that currently include electoral assistance and democratic institution building in over 30 countries. In recent years, Latin American countries have made considerable progress in consolidating democracy and holding credible elections. Yet challenges remain as citizens are increasingly demanding higher quality elections that uphold transparency, social inclusion, and accountability. In this episode, Michael and I discuss why 2018 will be an important year for democracy in Latin America, the potential for democratic backsliding, and the role of professional, independent election management in meeting challenges to democracy. Hi, Michael. Thanks for joining us today to talk about the year ahead for democracy and elections in Latin America. To start off, can you explain why 2018 is such an important year for democracy in the Western Hemisphere?
Well, there are a number of important elections across Latin America in 2018. In fact, we've called it an election supercycle, including presidential and/or legislative elections in 7 countries, as well as a couple of other referenda and public consultations. Now, despite significant progress, democracy in Latin America remains, at a crossroads. Conditions are ripe for further backsliding, and there's a rise in disillusionment. Recent survey data points to a lack of confidence in public institutions, and Latin Americans are showing increasing lack of appreciation of the role that electoral tribunals play, and a low trust level as it relates to political parties. So these elections will be important barometer of the future trajectory of democracy in the region.
Despite considerable progress in the last 3 decades, democracy in Latin America faces a number of challenges today. And you just alluded to a moment ago some of the trends that are leading towards potential democratic backsliding in the region. I was wondering if you could just discuss some of those trends for us.
Yeah, that's right. I think there are a number of common challenges that countries will experience elections this year are facing, and they point to either continued consolidation or continued challenges as it relates to democratic development. Those challenges include things like illicit money and campaign finance, the infiltration of the election process with dark money or narco trafficking funds remains an issue in several countries. Also, there's an increasing concern about cybersecurity and outside influence. Now, cyber attacks are a threat in many instances, but even greater than that is the vulnerability that many countries face in terms of disinformation and that kind of outsider influence that perverts the understanding of the voter of the issues at play. Also, I'd mention elections are somewhat on trial. We've seen election results contested in the courts in many places, and there may be attempts to in both the pre-election period and the post-election period to use the courts as a means of gaining redress and contesting election results.
Mexico's July 2018 elections will be a complex and historic endeavor for the country. Michael, can you talk a little bit about what makes this election so unprecedented and some of the progress that Mexico has made recently in its electoral administration?
Sure. The July 2018 elections are unprecedented in their magnitude and significance. Mexico will hold presidential, legislative, and senatorial elections, as well as elect governors in 9 states and the head of government in the capital federal district. Now, public opinion polls suggest a close race, and these elections will take place in the context of widespread violence related to organized crime. Over the past 2+ decades, Mexico has made great strides in its electoral administration with the establishment of an independent electoral institute and an electoral tribunal. In the upcoming elections, these institutions will be tested in addition to recent reforms in the electoral administration that provide for increased federal control over the electoral process.
Let's talk a little bit about Venezuela. They've scheduled snap presidential elections for April 22nd. Given the problematic nature of some of their more recent elections, what are your expectations for this vote and its overall impact on Venezuelan democracy?
Yeah, the timing of these snap elections certainly gives an advantage to the incumbent Nicolas Maduro. With little time to mount a credible challenge and a lack of clear consensus opposition candidate, challengers to Maduro will be hard-pressed to make a credible showing. So there should be little doubt in terms of the outcome of these elections. It will result in a re-election of Nicolas Maduro. In terms of its impact on Venezuelan democracy, one would hope that the opposition and civil society and that all voices in society are able to fully participate in the process, and that this election does not represent further backsliding in terms of democratic practices.
So finally, in an effort to meet these challenges that you just laid out, what role can professional independent election management play? And how is IFES working with institutions around Latin America to ensure that elections are free and fair and advancing democracy in the region?
Yes, at the heart of what we do is building institutions that earn and gain the trust of the citizen, supports or encourages all players in the electoral process to accept the electoral results. Now, we know from our work that democracy only works when people believe it's working, and the electoral institutions are effective if they win the confidence of the public through transparency, accountability, and responsiveness. So we're doing things such as working with election management bodies to be more transparent in their budgeting, their procurement, and creating clear roadmaps and overseeing level playing fields, providing professional communication, and encouraging a strong presence in things like this, like new media, and also developing systems that are consistent in the results tabulation and transmission process. A key element of an election is of course, the counting and the publication, the finalization of the results. And the last thing I'd mention that we're working on is the creation of the support to systems that ensure that election complaints are dealt with in a timely manner, in a professional manner, so that everyone can believe and have faith in the results.
Well, great. Thanks, Michael. Maybe we'll come back and check and see how some of these elections are going later in the year, and hope for more democratic progress in Latin America in 2018.
Thank you, Adam.
For more on how IFES promotes democracy around the world, please visit www.ifes.org.